welcome to the DR Sports Transfer Show, where we're going to be covering the latest news, rumours and everything else from the football world. Is your club going to get an Ornstein bomb? How many here we goes are we going to hear from Fabrizio Romano this January? Make sure to stay tuned every weekday for all the latest football news here on DR Sports. Yes, people, welcome back to DR Sports. Welcome back to the transfer breakdown. And a lot has happened since I was last with you 24 hours ago. And we're going to get straight into it. My name's Dylan. I'm going to be giving you all of the transfer news that's been happening in the last 24 hours. And we're going to start off with Conor Gallagher. So, according to David Ornstein, Tottenham have agreed a deal with Atletico Madrid to sign midfielder Conor Gallagher. Atletico have accepted Spurs' offer of 40 million euros. So that's 34.7 million quid. And the midfielder is expected to travel to England today on Tuesday to undergo his medical and finalise the deal and terms of a 5.5-year contract. So, as we've been covering on DR Sports here, Tottenham are looking for several players in the January transfer window, with Thomas Frank's Spurs down below in the table. They want a new attacking player as well, because Mohamed Kudus' injury is a lot bigger than they thought it was initially going to be. So they're looking for players, but clearly they also want some stabilisation. They want some more energy in midfield, and they've gone and signed Conor Gallagher for 34.7 million quid. Now, as I said before, it probably won't be the last piece of business for Tottenham. Obviously, they've already sold Brennan Johnson. Mohamed Kudus has a bad injury, so they need attackers, and maybe they see Conor Gallagher as someone who can add goals. I don't know, he's not really been too much along among the goals in his first few seasons in professional football and in Spain. But he's a player that will probably bring stability to them. Thomas Frank clearly wants, and maybe this could be a sign that Spurs are continuing to back Frank because they're giving him the players he wants and the players that he needs. It's also been said that Aston Villa did hold a strong interest in Gallagher. However, no agreements were reached, and they're amid their desire to maintain financial discipline at Villa Park. So although Spurs hijacked the deal, it seems that Villa never really reached some sort of agreement. Spurs then thought, we're going to get in there, and they signed the deal. Now, moving to Manchester, according to Team Talk, the British outlet Team Talk, Manchester City have made contact over a deal for 23-year-old England midfielder Elliot Anderson. Obviously, the Nottingham Forest midfielder, Nottingham Forest are not having a great season, but Elliot Anderson has been a standout star so far in this campaign. A little less in the last few months, but obviously he made his England debut earlier this season. He's massively rated by Thomas Tuchel, the England manager, who loves him. He's of interest to so many clubs worldwide. As reported by The Athletic, he is also Manchester United #1 target for midfield this summer, Elliot Anderson. In the summer, it was Carlos Bliber from Brighton, but apparently Manchester United are looking at him as their #1 option to sign in the summer. And if Manchester City are starting to make contact, then it's likely that Manchester United may enter into the race earlier than they think. Now, Elliot Anderson is not a player that's likely to leave before the summer because, according to Ben Jacobs, who was saying this a few months ago, his fee could be slightly lower than the 100 million to 80 million pounds that people are expecting, because there are some gives in his contract for if a Champions League club enters the race and enters the fray for him. Apparently, Nottingham Forest have committed to being reasonable. Whereas Brighton, obviously with Carlos Bliber, they wanted around 115 million, a similar fee to Moses Caicedo. So do keep an eye on Elliot Anderson's future, with Manchester City reportedly making contact. Now, moving on to Marc Guéhi, according to German transfer specialist Florian Plettenberg, Bayern Munich have not given up on signing the Crystal Palace defender, with Manchester City and Liverpool also in the chase. Liverpool's interest is well documented. We've also covered Manchester City's interest quite a lot. They want centre-back. They signed Semenyo earlier this summer. Diaz is out. Gvardiol is out. Pep Guardiola wants centre-backs, and Pep Guardiola's confirmed recently that some January signings will be made available should they need it. And money for transfers in the summer will be made available, with possibly a few exits such as Oscar Bob potentially going out of the frame. But for Liverpool and Marc Guéhi, according to The Athletic have confirmed that a January move hasn't been deemed realistic due to the financial package it could take to bring Guéhi to Anfield this month. As well as agreeing a hefty price to Crystal Palace, there would also probably need to be for a big signing on fee for Marc Guéhi, given the lucrative options that he would have on the table if he were to become a free agent in the summer. And also spending £450 million in the summer, last summer, a record-breaking splurge, obviously on the likes of Ekitike, Wirtz, Isak and co. Liverpool are expected to have a quiet January window and proper get back into gear in the summer market in 2026 to solve some of their defensive problems. In terms of Liverpool's need for defensive reinforcements, obviously we all know that Conor Bradley's been ruled out for the rest of the season with a knee injury, having suffered it against Arsenal in the final moments. But apparently, according to The Athletic, this hasn't changed Liverpool's approach to the rest of the summer window, so to the rest of the January window. They are ready to move for a suitable market opportunity if one came up. And clearly they don't see Mark Gay as that opportunity because of the amount of money it would take to buy him this month rather than possibly get him for free in the summer. But the suitable opportunity, if it comes up, it remains the case that they would go there. But as I said, it's expected to be quite a quiet window. And then moving to Aston Villa, back to Aston Villa, Sky Sports Italy have claimed that Roma have agreed a loan deal with an option to buy Aston Villa and Netherlands striker Daniel Marlon for £24.6 million. So we all know that Aston Villa, they want to keep up with the rest of the team, not necessarily try and win the Premier League title, but keep up in the race for Champions League spots. They're in a fantastic position. Unai Emery's done a brilliant job with them, but they need some more goals and they want some more goals. And it seems they're happy to sell Daniel Marlon, which is why at the same time, England and Roma striker Tammy Abraham, currently on loan with Besiktas, is keen on returning to England with Aston Villa a potential suitor. We covered this yesterday. Aston Villa wanting goals, wanting another striker. And if Daniel Marlon is going, bringing Tammy Abraham back, who's got Premier League experience, champion experience, and also probably more than anything, Aston Villa experience. Obviously, he was very well loved when he was at Aston Villa initially years and years ago. It could be a very good option to back up for Ollie Watkins, an extra goal threat, bring on at half-time, or someone that can play FA Cup games with obviously a view to also the future, potentially with Morgan Rogers' future, very up much for debate. If Morgan Rogers has a good World Cup, then who knows where he could go. But this is definitely one to keep an eye on as well, because clearly, Tammy Abraham's not in favour at Roma. Roma themselves are potentially buying Daniel Marlon. Tammy Abraham is on loan at Besiktas. So this could be a very good move, both for him, for his prospects for the future about returning to England permanently. Could be a permanent return here or a loan here. It's not too specific. But very, very good deal to keep an eye on in the future. Now, Tyreek George from Chelsea is expected to leave on a permanent transfer this month. The talented England under 21-year-old international winger has started just 2 games since the end of October and has not been given any of Chelsea's past 6 matchday squads. Of course, according to The Athletic, he has interest from England and on the continent. So, Tyreek George agreed a deal to sign with Fulham for 22 million on deadline day in the summer, if we all remember. But literally in the final hours, this fell through. He stayed at Chelsea, scored a few goals for them, but now with Rosinia in charge and Enzo Maresca clearly not having too much faith in him at all, Chelsea have decided it's probably better that Tyreek George moves on for a permanent fee. Chelsea are also still exploring the market for wingers. We know this because they were interested in Antoine Semenyo. Chelsea love their wingers, and apparently they're looking for fast, direct goal threats who can also create. And getting Tyreek George out the squad, getting in permanent fee for him could mean that Chelsea go and back Liam Rosinia with some transfers in the January market. And that could be a striker, that could be a winger, that could be elsewhere. But meanwhile, in terms of talking about managers, David Ornstein confirmed this morning on Tuesday morning that the Manchester United have reached an agreement to appoint Michael Carrick as their interim head coach until the end of the season. The deal, which includes former midfielders' proposed staff, is subject to finalising contract details with an announcement expected soon. Should everything progress as planned, Carrick's first game in charge will be against rivals Manchester City on Saturday at Old Trafford. And in terms of transfers for Manchester United, The Athletic have said that there is no movement on the player front. But it also has been reported elsewhere that Manchester United do see Ruben Neves, so Al Hilal's Ruben Neves, 28-year-old midfielder, obviously he used to play for Wolves, as a possible target for the club. Neves is reportedly on their list as a potential midfielder, and should a deal become feasible, they are ready to strike this month in order to bring in a midfielder now. Prior to Ruben Amorim's sacking, everyone knew that he was desperate for a midfielder in the summer. United decided to sign a front three instead, and when Brighton said that Carlos Baleba would cost over £100 million, United stayed put and they thought, we're going to assess our options next summer. Ruben Amorim then asked for a midfielder in January, and United told him they would only sign someone if it was one of their original targets anyway, who happened to become available in January. And Ruben Amorim consequently fell out with the board and got sacked. Now, with Michael Carrick in charge, United is still looking to continue their transfer policy and their idea that they're going to sign players who they want anyway, regardless of who's in charge. So they could be signing Ruben Neves this month. Who knows? Ruben Neves is reportedly available for around £20 million. He's a 28-year-old midfielder with lots of experience both in Championship and in the Premier League and a Portuguese international. For £20 million, obviously wages could be a problem. He would have to take a wage cut compared to what he has in the Saudi Pro League, but it could be a fantastic option for United if they were to go and sign Ruben Neves. So Michael Carrick set to be confirmed as Manchester United interim manager until the end of the season. He's beat Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to the race. And let's see what happens. First 2 games against Manchester City and Arsenal. No easy task, but last time Michael Carrick was in charge of Manchester United, he beat Arsenal 3-2 thanks to 2 goals from Ronaldo and a pretty horrendous game from David De Gea, I've got to say myself. But apart from that, that has been your Transfer DR Sports Roundup for Tuesday, the 13th of January. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about these deals about Michael Carrick being in charge of Manchester United, Conor Bradley going to Spurs, and everything else. Let me know in the comments. Should Liverpool accelerate their move for Mark Guehi this month amid interest from Manchester City and also reportedly Arsenal? But apart from that, I will see you soon.